Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest edition of the True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. I'm joined today by three experts in their field. We've got Christian, Jenny and Hayley.
Morning.
Welcome. Morning.
Thank you.
You all look tired. It's been a busy couple of weeks at True Potential, and everyone just about made it through the tax year end.
Yep. It's been exciting with lots of advisors asking questions to help their clients. And I know we've had lots of clients on the lines
asking questions about their products as well. So yeah.
And busy on the platform as well, Jenny.
Absolutely, last minute payments coming in, getting them matched up and applied to clients' accounts to make sure the class has contributions for the 2022-23 tax year. So yeah, busy platform.
Well, today's Thursday the 6th of April, day one of the new tax year. I always call it tax year reset. I mentioned that on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and it hasn't quite stuck. I don't know why. But the logic behind it was actually, one day ends, another one begins. It's don't think of the tax year end as a deadline to go, I've got 11 months and 30 days to, do what I need to do. It's not like a tax return. Don't think of it as a dreaded event that happens, later in the kicking it down the line. We have plenty of, opportunity to get in early, make the most of the allowances that you get. And we'll get into that as we go. But I think, Christian, I'm just going to ask you, we've kind of run a theme over, March and into April, which is all around the tax year changes. But maybe just explain what it is to our listeners if somebody's coming in cold or not really sure what it all means.
Sure. So your tax year runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April. And that sets things like your ISA allowances and your pension input allowances. But as you've said, Greg, it's really important to remember that as much as the end of the year is a deadline, that doesn't mean you should wait right until the end of the tax year to suddenly rush your contributions. And we've had a few clients on the phone the last couple of days with last minute contributions to make sure they get the money in. If you've got the money available, it's really important to get that money in now so that you're set for the whole tax year and you don't have to worry for another 366 days until we're into the next tax year. The allowances, which we'll talk about in this podcast, are really important to shelter your money from capital gains tax, income tax, etc., particularly following the autumn budget. So we've just been discussing capital gains tax. Your capital gains tax allowance has reduced in this tax year from £12,300, where you could have gains tax-free, to £6,000. And then from next tax year, that's going to reduce again to £3,000. So that's going to have a big impact on anyone without investments that are already in a tax wrapper. So it's really important that all clients think ahead, particularly with where markets are now. Now, they've dropped a little bit over the last couple of months. We've had some issues, but actually great time to sell out of non-tax wrapped investments and put it into an ISA because you're not using up much of your capital gains tax allowance. Hopefully we'll see a more positive year in markets this year, but you don't want to then be incurring a tax liability just to move money into more tax efficient products later on in the tax year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think whilst we've been saying it's been hectic and busy, that's because this is almost in financial services, this is our Christmas, isn't it? It's kind
Absolutely.
of when we're busy. We're not allowed any days off. We've all got to be in the office and working, but ultimately to look after our financial advisors and indeed our clients, making sure if somebody has left at the last minute, we're on hand. So we've been running it at extended hours, Hayley. We've had lots of the team in.
We've been running from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. for the last couple of weeks, Monday through till Friday. We've done a couple of Saturday shifts for like 4 hours on each Saturday and Sunday, which has been nice. It's not been kind of as busy, I don't think, on the weekend because nobody expects it to be open, but we have sent reminders out for everyone to let them know that we are here. It's just really getting on top of the client messages and written communications, making sure we're on top of kind of anything that clients might need so close to the tax year, making sure everything's submitted in time.
Good. And Jenny, the platform we've been kept busy by our advisors and by the volume of business coming through, but those extra hours have helped keeping within what we call an SLA service level agreement.
Yeah.
Got it right?
Absolutely. So making sure that we're still on hand for advisors and any clients that contact us direct. We've done, the Saturday shifts with the customer care team to make sure, if they've got any questions about a platform account, that we can get the clients the answers as soon as possible, really. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been a decent stint.
Well, it's my 12th tax year end at True Potential. It's like making a seam and sound old, but
Wow.
actually I would say the calmest I've ever seen. My first tax year end, I remember us sitting in the office till 1 minute past midnight.
Yeah.
Any
It wasn't
last-minute checks?
it wasn't as chaotic as that last night, that's for sure. But it was, we had the team on hand helping
Yeah.
anybody with those last minute sort of inputs into their products. The big change over the 12 years I've been with True Potential is just the sort of evolution of our technology. So I remember we actually had an advisor drive from Scott. Our chief executive always tells the story better than me, Daniel. But we had one of our advisors drive from Glasgow, it was, to Newcastle to physically hand deliver a cheque. And luckily it was on the evening, there was no traffic, and we managed to stamp it just before midnight to say, we got that in. But those days have almost gone now with True Potential, where we've got all of our advisors and clients comfortable, engaged with the technology. So let's just quickly get into that. What kind of can clients do now as we're in the new tax year is log in and have a look at their new allowances. So
they can log in. They can log in through the client site or the app, so it's straight through their phone. If they're logging in through the app, it's so straightforward because you've got thumbprint and facial recognition and stuff now, so they don't even need to type passwords in and stuff. They've got on there, they've got where they can set their goals for the tax year. They can add direct debits in. They can make impulse saves if they want to straight into their policy, and it just really puts them on the front foot for moving throughout the new tax year. If they are wanting help with that and using the app and using the client site if they've never used it before, we've got a live chat feature which is really nice. If the clients have actually logged in to their client site, we can actually discuss all of their information with them because they've passed the two-factor authentication. So if they've got any questions on their policies or even just goal setting or setting direct debits, we can call browse so we can see their screens and what they're looking at. It's all done with a video camera, so the person who's on the other end of the live chat can see which agent they're speaking to in head office. It's just a little bit more relaxed, I think, rather than going backwards and forwards over secure message or emails. It's also immediate responses. So when you're doing something right there and then, rather than having to wait sort of an hour or two for a response back, if you're logged in ready to go, the agent's there to help you. What's good as well about the live chat is no matter if you go onto a different page or if you change screens or whatever, it'll follow you through, so you don't have to close it down and restart and what have you. On the other hand, we do have the telephone number. If you wanted to give us a ring, we can talk you through it over the telephone. We wouldn't be able to call browse unless you logged in and kind of went through that process anyways. But if you did just want to give us a quick call if you had a question or a query, the number follows you through on each page as well.
And I think the screen sharing is really important there because
Yeah.
there's nothing more frustrating than when you're on the phone and someone says, if you press this button, and you go, that button's not there. But we
Yeah.
can guide our clients through,
Absolutely.
show them exactly what to do. So not only can they fill the right allowances for this year or the pension allowances, but they know how to use the technology for the future. And we can do more as well with clients, ensuring that they learn about the other features on those calls if they'd like to, setting goals.
Yeah, but we can do demonstrations with clients as well. So if it's maybe not something that they wanted to do previously and they've been a client with us for a few years, they can still give us a call and we can book in a demonstration. The technology will have changed quite a lot. I mean, it changes from month to month, never mind year to year. So if they're wanting to kind of dig a little bit deeper and kind of utilise the client site as to how they would use it. So if I was to use it, it would be somebody I would use it very different as someone who's maybe retired and taking an income. So just kind of drilling right down into it and learning and kind of utilising it to their needs, I think is definitely something to do for the start of the tax year.
Yeah, I was at one of our partner firm events on, when was it now, Thursday last week, and it was a great event. 200 plus of their clients turned up, and one older gentleman, you'll never get this old boy using technology. By the end of the day, he'd logged in and impulse saved £10,000, which was just, it goes to show there's no demographic of client now that can be ruled out of using technology because it's so accessible to get on and get yourself logged in.
Absolutely.
The second one, and I sort of tried testing our development team this morning, but I logged in to see if my allowance had been reset, and there it was, £20,000 into the ISA this tax year. So even just being clever enough to know what your allowance is on your app was quite neat. But also kind of Jenny and Christian as well, people can speak to the team, if they need, and maybe more than, say, just support, they can speak to an advisor in the building as well?
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, we have a number of employed advisors. We also have self-employed advisors around the country. So if clients have a specific financial advisor, they can speak to their advisor and get support either to use the technology, or their advisor can provide them with advice if they would a bit of extra security and a bit of extra sort of walk through and hand holding through that process. But talking about, the technology, Impulse Save is so easy, but once you've got it set up the first time, all your card details are saved, and then we'll keep a record of your previous payments in and update your allowance as you go through. So even if you can't put the whole allowance in now, even if it's only £500 or £1,000, we'll update your remaining allowance and make sure the next time you log in, you know exactly how much you've got left, so you can't exceed those allowances, which is really clever and important.
I think that's one thing that we always do. I think we always revert to like the £20,000, don't we? And we say £20,000 all the time. Now, I would not be able to afford £20,000 today to put into my ISA. So I think you need to utilise the tools that we've got available to kind of spread it out over the months. I mean, you've got a full year now, we're right at the very beginning. So setting up direct debits, setting up an Impulse Save, doing it at the start of the month or the end of the month, and even if it's £100 what you've got left over, anything is better than nothing. I think just to kind of plan and look around at what you can do and what you can afford, it's going to be more beneficial for you in the long run as well.
Absolutely. I think the other thing for this, and I'm a sucker for rewards, I know I
Oh,
talk
yes.
about it every single time that I'm on the podcast, but everyday spending that we do throughout life, remember the rewards section on the app, and see if the provider or whoever you're buying it is on there, and that can go into your ISA or your pension as a contribution. So it just kind of makes sure that it keeps topping it up, and it's a little bit extra in there for you.
Absolutely.
Every little helps, doesn't
Every
it?
little helps.
I don't think we can use that phrase.
Oh, no.
do more with your money. That's the one. Do more with your money, ladies and gents.
It is a really important point, that even small amounts built up over time, because all the big pensions we look at these days will have been built up by small regular contributions over time. So even for parents, it's important to talk to your children if they've started work recently. Saving even 10 or 20 or £30 either into a pension or an ISA can have a huge impact to their life over the next 30, 40, 50 years. So as much as we always, as you say, talk about £20,000, just getting anything into these tax allowances, using as much as you can, is really important for every client.
Absolutely, and it kind of links into what we were going to jump onto next, but making the most of your money. It's not, it's not always about, you're right, Hayley, not everyone can just maximise everything.
I'd love to,
and
but
off they go.
unfortunately I can't.
It'd be a lovely world to live in, but yeah, and actually there's a benefit of compounded growth as well, which I know we've talked on many of the previous podcasts, but there's, we're Christian's alluded to it, we're in a market at the moment with a lot of uncertainty, and by that what I mean is, we're seeing some big swings, in given months, which used to happen across given years or given decades. It's kind of, we're seeing a lot of short-term things, and there's a lot of old sayings which are there for a reason, which is time in the market, not timing the market, and I think that's really important. But if you just work it out as much as you can every month using the technology, you actually can get a benefit of compounded growth the way that the markets are working at the moment. So,
and of course, within all these tax products that we're talking about, ISAs and pensions, it's free of capital gains tax and income tax. So that can have a significant impact on withholding your growth if it's not in a good tax wrapper. And if we look at, you might think, well, 5% growth on £20,000, it's not that much, but when you get growth on growth on growth over a long period of time, it's really important. And again, if you look at the big pensions we see, the actual contributions to those will be much smaller than the current value, because the majority of it is investment growth.
Did you notice it was busy this morning, ladies, looking into your systems? Did it seem like, explaining it's like Christmas? Did it appear to be chaotic this morning, with it being the start of a new tax year?
For us, we've had quite a few queries this morning, making sure that clients that used the Impulse Save feature last night, that definitely came through. Obviously, it's time stamped, which is what's brilliant about the Impulse Save feature. You could use it up until midnight on the 5th of April. So we've had a couple of queries in regards to that, just making sure they went through. But we always tend to find that the end of the tax year is a lot busier than the first day of the new tax year.
We've done really well, I think, with keeping the clients in the loop with what's going on, and we've sent out kind of marketing communication. So emails, text messages, push notifications. There's been the podcasts, there's been the blogs, the roundups, and everything like that. The clients have been well aware that this is very much coming.
Yeah.
It's sort of like very strange because you get to the next day and it just sort of just stops, and you think it's a bit unnerving, I think.
It can be.
Yeah.
Why I was asking, because I've not quite been up and had a look at the office floors yet, but
it just sort of stops. It's strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, like looking, the most queries that we've had is kind of, has everything gone through, and just kind of double checking and triple checking that everything's counted for the last tax year.
And nobody missed the deadline. That was the most important thing. There was no.
Not as far as I've seen so far.
There'll be somebody.
There's always probably Jamie Sexton. I'm not sorry for that one, Jamie. Well, look, let's get on to, and as I said earlier, I think the last couple of podcasts have been very much swayed towards tax year end, and we're in this new tax year, new dawn, a new beginning. But as we say, it's just another day. Nothing exciting. But Christian, I'm going to look at you for this one, mate, because you've kind of been overseeing this for not just your firm but True Potential Group. There's a lot of change in less so product but more so the advice that we have to give clients. There's some changes in allowances.
Yeah.
Do you want to just quickly give a synopsis of that?
Sure. So we'll start with ISAs because that's fairly simple. Your ISA allowance has stayed at £20,000, which is a bit of a shame. It would be great to see that increasing more over time.
Yeah.
We saw a big jump to £20,000 a couple of years ago, and it would be great to see that increasing so people can get more investments tax wrapped as soon as possible. And of course, an ISA, the money that you put in stays the same, so there's no tax relief going in, but any withdrawals are tax free. It's also really worth pointing out that our ISA is a flexible ISA, so that means you can put money in during the tax year, you can take it back out, and then you can actually put it back in within the same tax year, and it won't count as an additional contribution. So they are very flexible. It's getting more like a bank account now that's tax-free, as opposed to what used to be you put it in and if you withdrew it out, it was a bit more of a pain.
Yeah.
An ISA shelters you from income tax and capital gains tax, so it's a great tax-efficient product, and we're seeing a lot of people using those now, even just for smaller amounts. Moving on to pensions are a little bit more complicated. Everyone will see in the headlines after the spring budget a lot of changes, so I'll try and simplify them as much as possible. Annual allowance is the first one. So in the last tax year, as of until the end of yesterday, you could put up to £40,000 gross into your pension, which would be a tax relievable contribution. So TPI very kindly claim the tax relief, your basic rate tax relief for you. So if you put in £32,000, TPI would claim back £8,000 from HMRC. If you were a higher rate taxpayer, you could do your self-assessment or just contact HMRC and get an additional £8,000, or an additional rate taxpayer can get more. But that £40,000 gross allowance has now increased to £60,000. So that's actually quite exciting because it's not often we see a 50% uplift in a tax allowance. So that's great news for people who are sort of higher earners, or even for people who are coming towards retirement, perhaps looking to switch money out of other investments into a pension to benefit from tax relief in their last couple of years working.
Yeah.
Now, if you are lucky enough to be able to put a lot of money into your pension, or it's grown a lot over time, or perhaps you're a defined benefit pension scheme member, you've always been a bit worried about the lifetime allowance. Now, there's a few misconceptions about this. Some people think it's a limit on how much you can have in pensions. It's not. It's sort of a barrier beyond which previously, when you actually crystallised or moved those funds into drawdown or used them to buy an income, you would have an excess allowance tax charge, which was either 25% if you drew it as income or 55% if you drew it as a lump sum. Now, for the 2023-24 tax year, which starts today, there's now no longer any excess charges for going over the lifetime allowance, but the lifetime allowance is still in place. So TPI will still have to do all the calculations to work out what percentage you've used, and you've got to do all your calculations and certificates and things.
Yeah.
But there's quite an exciting opportunity for people who have large pensions there, because it is possible to crystallise their pension and not incur any LTA excess charges. But it is something I would say you need to speak to an advisor about, because there's a lot of other things that we have to consider, because you might end up taking tax-free cash out, which goes into your estate for inheritance tax. So a lot of different moving parts there. But it's well worth speaking to an advisor, and obviously you can call our customer care team if you'd like to make an appointment.
Yep.
Absolutely.
From 2024 onwards into the next tax year, there's apparently going to be no lifetime allowance. Now, we've had comments from Labour saying they'll bring it back in, and we would love to know what's actually going to happen, but we're not that smart.
I mean, how do you give advice to a client right now? It's, you know, you've got, you know, barely the dust had settled from the news coming out from the budget, and then you've got, you know, Labour coming out, and we'll keep politics out of it, but basically saying as and when we come in, that'll be abolished. How do you speak to clients about that, Christian?
It is a real challenge.
Yeah.
And there was a great quote from someone. They said, actually, you can't play with pensions. People have to make lifelong decisions.
Correct.
And, you know, for the people in this room, if we think about making additional pension contributions, we probably won't be able to access those pensions for 20 or 30 years, given how the normal minimum pension age is going to increase. And not knowing what the lifetime allowance will be, whether it will exist or not, is a big factor.
Yeah.
More so for people who are in the last maybe 5 years of working, who might have a very interesting short-term opportunity here to avoid tax. We were talking through some examples with one of our external pensions consultants, and he gave a great example of someone with a £1.5 billion pension could save £100,000 in tax just by crystallising that in this tax year and just leaving it in a pension. So there's a lot of different opportunities there that should really be explored with a financial advisor. But you're right, Greg, it is complicated, not knowing exactly what's going to happen even in 366 days' time in the new tax year, because that's a little unclear in the finance bill that we've received. In terms of other allowances, you've also got your money purchase annual allowance. Now, if you've drawn an income from your pension, you trigger the money purchase annual allowance, which limits or reduces the £40,000 standard annual allowance back to £4,000. But that's now increased in this tax year to £10,000 per year. So for people who have perhaps retired or stopped working during COVID, taken some income to support themselves and have now gone back to work, it again presents an exciting opportunity to get some more tax relievable contributions back into their pension while they're still working. So there's a lot of different areas that we could cover in great detail there, but I don't want to bore the audience too much.
Or us. I think the message is, and Christian, you know, the way in which you've explained it there is in layman terms as possible, and it's still maybe too much for a listener or a viewer. The message is, if you're unsure, get in touch, because as you say, we've got a team of advisors here. We've got advisors on the road. We've got our customer care team, we've got our platform team, all working together, all giving clients the right information, timely and accurately, to understand what they may or may need to consider to make a decision. Yep. As you say, you're normally going to need retire once, although the way things are going, it's, you know, a little bit who knows, but it's kind of a decision you can't make, you know, like which socks do I put on today. It's a big decision, so speak with a member of the team. It's exactly why we're here. So we see a busy day at the office as well. I just noticed there's many people behind us, so we've got a training course on today with the next bunch of inductees, so another normal day here, which is good to see.
Yep, awesome new exciting wealth management partners who've decided to join our firm, which is great news for us and their clients. And
Glenn's looking really happy there as well. Glenn does our training on the course. So well, look, ladies, gent, thank you for sort of helping me get through that and get through the last couple of weeks as well. But we're there, you know, we're into a new tax year 13 for me. Before we get into the tips, because I know you're all excited to give everyone your top tips, I just wanted to kind of mention to our viewers, and we've just launched our 2022 annual report. Quite a good read, quite exciting. Graham, the man behind the cameras, told me to say this, but we've got a blog on the website, or if you email in, we'll get you a copy of it. But do have a look at the annual report. It's got some really good information on there. It's not to be boastful. It's not to be, you know, showing off or anything. It's because we're proud of the figures that we stand behind at True Potential. We work for our clients, for our advisors, and for our colleagues, and in that order as well. So it's quite important. If you're a listener, a viewer, do have a read of that. Do have a look over it, and any questions on that, get in touch with a member of the team. That one was for you, Graham. And then lastly, I'll start with you, Jenny, because I think you had you said that you had a couple as well, and you didn't want anyone to steal your ideas. So top tips as we're into the new tax year, please.
Well, I had two, but Christian's gone and stolen one of mine, and he's any comments about the ISAs. So, first one being, remember that the True Potential platform ISA is a flexible ISA. So if you do need to take money out for whatever reason during the tax year, know that you can put that money back in with True Potential in that same tax year. So, you don't have to worry about the fact, oh God, I'm going to lose my allowance. Do I need to take it from somewhere else? As Christian says, that flexibility is there within that ISA product. And the second one was all about rewards.
Yeah.
It's a great way to top up a little bit more. So yeah, there you go, 2.
Do you want to go next, Sadie?
Oh yeah. And mine is kind of what I touched on earlier. So remember that you don't have to just fill up and max your allowances in one go. Set up a direct debit. For me personally, I've set up a direct debit. It comes out on the 1st of the month with the rest of my other bills. I think everyone gets into a loop of thinking, oh, I can't afford it, and the money goes and you end up spending it if it's just left in your account. So do a direct debit, start the month, and kind of build your way up through the tax year.
So mine's a little bit unusual. It's that don't just think about your own tax allowances, especially if you have kids or a wife. It can be really valuable to use their allowances. For children, you can make a third-party contribution to their pension. And even when they're very young, you could start them off really early getting money into a pension. They won't be able to touch it for a long time, but that means that they're not going to get a junior ISA at 18 and then spend it all on a car or a holiday. But it's a really valuable way of setting people up for their future life. And, a contribution to a pension might be the most boring birthday present in the world. Yeah. But actually, it
not for
could
you,
really
Christian.
help.
Dead exciting for you.
That's a good tip. My birthday's in August.
Okay, well, I'll finish on, and this is, I may be showing my age, or maybe showing I'm boring, but just try not to get into the ready, steady, cook type scenario. Remember the TV show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they'd have an hour to cook something, and they'd gas on for 50 minutes. And then with 10 minutes to go, it was like, right, I've got to cook something. And they'd chuck it all on a plate, and it always looked terrible. And they always got voted off. So just remember, you've got a year to do this, so it probably links in with a bit of Haley's.
Yeah.
But you've got a year to get this in. And I was looking at my inbox a couple of days ago, and there was still, Greg, I'm sorry to bother you, but this client is just about to make a payment. I'm thinking, you've had all year.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you do it in incremental payments and get the benefit of compounded growth, or you do it as a lump sum if you're fortunate enough to do it, or you move it from a different vehicle which isn't as tax efficient as an ISA. But just try and get yourself organised and in an order. Almost have your plan this week as to how you're going to make the most of all of these tax vehicles, and whether that involves doing it yourself, using the technology, or speaking with an advisor or one of the team, and kind of wrap that up nicely there, haven't I? So, well, look, Hayley, Jenny, Christian, thank you for helping me get through tax year end and into tax year start. As you can see, ladies and gents, it's another day here at True Potential. We're all ready and happy to work with you on all of your needs and any help, etc., with technology, with financial advice. The team are on hand. So thank you for listening today. If you're listening to this over the bank holiday weekend, which we've got coming up, have a good one. And thank you very much.